Years of Influence, a premier video show where we share the success journeys of the elite and learn about the pivotal moments and decisions that shape their paths to prominence. I'm your host, Nancy Erickson. I work with high net worth individuals, CEOs, and business leaders, and I give them a white glove experience to write, edit, publish, market, and distribute their books worldwide. I'm the owner of Stonebrook Publishing, an award-winning publishing house that publishes nonfiction works. Today, my esteemed guest is Scott Aaron, internationally acclaimed and award-winning online marketer, best-selling author, top podcaster, and speaker. Scott Aaron is the go-to specialist when it comes to converting traffic, establishing connections, generating leads, creating sales, and building personal brands, all using LinkedIn. Scott is passionate about helping fellow entrepreneurs achieve success while building their own network organically and without complicated and costly marketing tactics. Scott's strategic approach to teaching others how to create wealth online and organic traffic is a game changer when it comes to competing in a saturated digital world. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could join us. Our audience obviously is LinkedIn, which is your playground. So I just kind of want to start a little bit about your really early years. Tell us about where you grew up and where you're from and what was your family life like?
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, outside of Conshohocken, in a nice little area called Lafayette Hill, and had a great childhood growing up. My sister and I are still very close to this day. We're about 2 years and 10 months apart. I went the traditional route, started off in college at the University of Pittsburgh, and that didn't go as planned. I'm a very social person, and when I'm left to my own devices, obviously, I found
you
it
had
very
a lot of
challenging.
fun, right?
Yeah, it was at 18 years young.
Yes.
I think people underestimate how challenging it could be for some people to really balance, I would say, the maturity of going to class on your own when you don't really have to, and obviously the social aspect.
Yes.
I do also come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my dad, and obviously now me. And my father, when I was a senior in high school, broke his partnership with the company that he was running, and started working for another entrepreneur who was competing with NovaCare, or a lot of the physical rehabilitation corporations. It was a small and mom and pop operation that would, target local fitness clubs, and he was kind of managing the operation. And from outside looking in, everything looked great. Around the same time that I had failed out at the University of Pittsburgh, and I was in the process of going to community college to then ramp back up, eventually landing at Temple University in downtown Philadelphia. My father was actually going through his own, I would say, little experience himself. The company that he ended up working for ended up getting involved in an insurance fraud scam that was worth about $9.5 million. And my dad was kind of towards the top of the totem pole. So when he got out, it was a little bit too late. And in between the demise of that company, but also my father's future, obviously leaving that company, he needed to get something up and going. God forbid if something happened, we would have something to fall back on as far as monetary resources. My father was always a fitness buff. I started going to the gym with him at a very, very young age, just watching him work out with his trainer, Bruce, who he still trains with to this day. So the opportunity presented itself for my father to purchase a failing health club in downtown Philadelphia in an up-and-coming area called Old City. And he jumped at it with the two helps of my two grandfathers, one of which is still with me. My dad's dad, he's 96 years old, and they helped him get it up and going. 6 months after he took over that gym, which was also about 3 or 4 months after I failed out at the University of Pittsburgh. My father was then sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison for his involvement in the insurance fraud case. So I was kind of thrusted into this adult role because I didn't know this at 19 years old, but I was the one that was going to be taking over this gym to support my mom and my sister, who was still
Oh
alive.
my gosh. Wow.
So it was a very. I always jokingly tell people that I've been psychologically unemployable since day one. So I've never worked for anyone. I've
Well,
only worked for
most
myself.
entrepreneurs can't work for anybody else. That's why we do our own thing, right?
Exactly. So I ended up falling in love with the health and wellness industry. I had a very fulfilling 18-year career from 1998 to 2016 in the fitness industry. I started pivoting in around 2013 more into the online space, first in health and wellness. But there were a lot of ups and downs along the way. And in the time that my father was gone, I grew the gym from around 300 members to about 1,200 by the time he came back.
Oh, wow.
We ended up opening up a second location. A year after that happened, we sold both gyms for $1 million. So I was 23 years old, 24 years old, made my first million. And then about 6 years after opening our final location, which I closed in 2016, I found myself in $1.5 million of liability debt, which is why when I closed it in 2016, in order to do that, I had to file for personal bankruptcy. So I've seen the highs and the lows of lows. And I would say the big thing with my story, and there's a lot of nuances in between, is that the resiliency that you need to have in being an entrepreneur, you're going to fail more than you succeed, but you learn how to succeed from those failures. And that's exactly what has happened to myself, my wife, and obviously the company that we're running today.
Yeah. Well, that's an incredible story. You were really thrust into something as a teenager, right? How could you be equipped to run a gym? I mean, there's a lot more to it than knowing how to work out. It's not like being a trainer. It's running a business, and you've got income, and you've got, revenue, and you've got expenses, and you have to pay people, and it all just has to work, but managing a business is not easy, especially if you don't have any business experience. So I'm very impressed with what you accomplished. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
So that is kind of a far cry from what you're doing now. So how did you get into being like an online, you're like a booster, you help people to get visibility, and even in your bio, it talks about how crowded the digital space is.
Yeah.
So how did you go from being a bankrupt former gym owner to doing what you do today, Scott?
So around 2013, I was posed with an interesting question from someone in the industry that I was friends with. And we were out to lunch one day. And, I was the prototypical, very busy personal trainer. I was, I would get to the gym around 5 a.m. with my first client, and I would stop at 8 or 9 at night. That was Monday through Thursday, almost a full day Friday, half day Saturday, 1 day off Sunday. So I was putting in about 75 to 80 hours a week, and it was taxing. And I became a father in 2012, which really shifted the trajectory of my life and how I wanted to show up in it. And this friend of mine asked me, he said, if you got sick or injured where you physically couldn't train people, or you physically could not get to the gym, how would you earn a living? And it was a question that was never asked to me, but it really scared me to death, literally, because
of course,
I was A, trading time for dollars, and B, I was the asset. Like if I was the one that had to create the revenue. So at the same time, I had become really intrigued with the online space, and I started thinking to myself, I'm confined by the four walls that I'm surrounded by. And how can I kind of break out of that? I started looking at the demographics and the psychographics of the clients that I was seeing on a day-to-day basis. And there was one glaring similarity with all of them. They were all business professionals. They would see me on their way into the city to go to work. They would see me on their lunch break if they worked in the area, or on their way back from the city, they would stop at the gym to work out with me. So I said to myself, if all of these local business professionals are right here and they're willing to see me in person, there has to be similar people online that would also benefit from my online nutritional counseling or online workout programs. So that's when I said to myself, what social platform should I then start utilizing to showcase my skill set to these potential clients? And that was LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and there they are on LinkedIn, all the business people, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I originally opened up an account in 2009. LinkedIn started in 2003. So I was a little bit late to the party, but there are still a ton of people that aren't even on there today. And my profile basically collected dust for about 4 years, logged on 2013, changed my profile around, refilled out all of my profile information, started searching, connecting, messaging, providing content that was directed towards this ideal demographic that I wanted to really impact, were the business professionals that really wanted some nutritional and training help, getting
Right.
their bodies strong. So within about a 6-month period, doing what I was doing on the platform, I was able to basically replace the income that I was making in person, trading
It's
time for
in
dollars,
6 months, Scott.
trading time
That's
for dollars.
remarkable.
Thank you.
And you know what? Because then another thing, when the pandemic came, I know that for almost 3 years, I worked out over Zoom with my trainer, and, and so your gym would have suffered anyway
Oh yeah.
once the pandemic hit.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of the gym industry in itself changed. The mom and pop gyms were basically put out of business
mhm.
by some of the larger conglomerates, the LA Fitnesses, the 24-hour Fitnesses, the Planet Fitnesses. We just couldn't compete. It was that's why you saw a lot of people opening up like smaller training studios where there wasn't a lot of overhead. Our overhead was $17,000 a month. That was just a break even. So a lot went into it. So after I started getting all this traction, I was able to start pulling back on the amount of in-person training that I was doing because I had revenue coming in the online space. So I started reaching out to other friends of mine that were also coaches, they were consultants, they were service professionals that, needed to use this platform to connect with, business professionals that could be benefited from their services.
Mhm.
And I didn't have any real structure to what I was doing. I kind of just told them a little bit of how I changed my profile and what I was doing. And one of my friends in particular, about 2 weeks after I showed him of what to do, he texted me, and the text just read, "Dude, call me." So first I thought something was wrong. So I called him, and I said, "Is everything okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, everything's great." He goes, "I just got to let you know." He goes, "I think you figured something out with this LinkedIn platform." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Whatever you showed me how to do a couple weeks ago," he goes, "I have 14 appointments booked this week, and I have never had that many calls booked in 1 week before." He goes, "You should be teaching and training this." I said, "What do you mean I should be teaching and training this?" He goes, "You've spent the last almost 2 decades
Yeah.
teaching and training people how to better their bodies. Now you can teach and train people how to better their business." And I'm like,
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
"Oh, wow." So I was
So,
already
I
kind of.
just want to jump in for a second because you say you replaced your income in 6 months. What were you actually selling? What were you providing these clients?
So it was either a 6-week or 12-week, either nutritional counseling program,
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
or a 6 or 12-week workout program, or there was a bundle where they
Yeah.
could get 6 or 12 weeks of workouts and nutritional counseling. And I had great retention because I knew what I was doing. So people
Right.
started to get results in these 6 to 12 months, and they didn't want it to stop. So I got a lot of referrals. I got a lot of high retention rates, and it continued to mount and mount and mount and mount. And again, then I ended up, when I was doing all the nutritional stuff, then I had a lot of people reaching out to me for help in how to use LinkedIn, which ended up
Yeah.
being even more profitable. So just how I started to cut back on the
Yeah.
personal
You can
training in
pivot.
person to
Right.
do online, I then had 2 different consulting practices going on at once.
But you're making a good point, Scott. It's that if you have to have something of value that you're offering, first of all, in order for people to have, for you to not just make that first sale, but to retain and have a constant stream of income. So
people pay for results. That's what they're
they
paying
do.
for. That's
They
all they
do.
want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that encapsulated a lot of what I was doing, because people, whether I was working with people in person, they were paying for results physically, or online. But now in the business sector, people were paying for results. Like, yeah, I want you to show me how to generate more leads. I want you to show me how to generate more sales calls. I want you to show me how to, acquire more clients and, build my brand on the platform. So that was in 2013. So for the last 11 years, I've been just honing in on my LinkedIn knowledge, and I have some great connections at corporate that kind of fill me in on some of the changes that are going on. And, I provide them obviously some from an insider's perspective of, what people are, dissatisfied with. And, LinkedIn has done a really great job of listening to the contingency of those that want to use it the right way to continue to make it a wonderful platform. And it's provided such a great foundation for myself, my wife, and our company to really grow and scale. And now we're teaching other people how to do the same thing.
So is your wife involved as well?
Yeah. So we run our company together.
Yeah, that's cool. So what kind of things do you teach them to do on LinkedIn, Scott? I mean, you've got your secret sauce, I'm sure, but
yeah,
often with people, especially this is what I found, business people, they're running their business, right? They're busy doing things. So with something, they come across something, they don't want to have to figure it out on their own. They want someone to lead them through that so they can be very efficient with their time. So what kind of things do you teach them to do or show them how to do?
Yes, I would say from two perspectives. So Nancy and I just recently wrote a book called The Feel Good Business Model. It's the first book that we've actually co-written together. We have a husband and wife run business.
Congratulations.
We have a husband and wife written book now, which we're very proud of. And it goes over the core principles of what we teach, which is creating a business that you love and feels good, where you're not tied to it 24/7, 365. We've developed a 3-day-a-work-week business model for coaches, consultants, and service providers, where we teach them what we've done to grow and scale, where we really only have to work about 15 hours a week at this point, which we love every single minute of it. But from a LinkedIn perspective, I talk about something called the 4 layers of LinkedIn. And the way that I describe LinkedIn from a visual standpoint is like a layer cake, almost like a wedding cake. If you could, picture that, where you have the big base at the bottom and then you have 3 tiers on top. And the way that I really quantify this is that each one of those tiers has to be perfectly aligned and speak to the next. If not, it'll topple over. And that's why it's not just one thing that people need to get right on LinkedIn. It's a number of things. So people think, oh, I just have to, optimize my profile, or, oh, I just have to send a bunch of connections out. Oh, I just have to message blast a bunch of people, or I have to just post a bunch of content. It really, you have to be clear on exactly what you're doing, not from your perspective, but from the person that you're looking to attract into your business. That's the big thing. We call it the passenger side perspective. So it's putting yourself in the shoes of the person that you're looking to market with, you're looking to serve, you're looking to help, so you can get in front of them much easier. So when this whole process begins, it's really taking advantage of the SEO of our LinkedIn profiles. And I think what a lot of people need to understand is that when Microsoft bought out LinkedIn in 2014, they embedded a ton of SEO, which is search engine optimization. So it's all based on keywords. So
really, now tell me more about that. I wasn't aware of that.
So you will know. So if you ever go on Google and Google yourself, one of the first things that should populate is your LinkedIn profile. For me, it's either my first or second top search result. My website being scottaaron.net is the other one. So it's more likely to populate just because it's my name.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that the way that LinkedIn works is just like any other search engine. So it's connected to Google, it's connected to Yahoo. So LinkedIn really wants people to take advantage of the SEO capabilities. That's why at the top of the LinkedIn page on the left-hand side is a search bar. So people are looking for you the way that you're looking for them. So the way that you have to think about this is, what keywords do I need to have in my headline, in my about section, in the description of my experiences, all fluttered throughout, that when someone puts that keyword or keywords in the search bar, I will appear on the first search result page, just like on Google.
Right.
So the restaurants or the businesses that have their websites properly optimized, guess what? They populate on that first search result page.
So
That's what
important.
people pay for. So the same thing goes for LinkedIn. If you're not populating on the first search result page, you're not getting many profile views, profile visits, just like the homepage to a website. What people need to look at their profile as is one giant lead magnet. Now, not to get too high level, but the idea is, how can you convert visitors of your LinkedIn profile into email subscribers? And that's the big thing, because you need to have as many clickable areas within your LinkedIn profile where you're giving something of value to that person, whether it's a free guide or a way to book a consult call or buy your book or sign up for your workshop. And in exchange, they're giving you their email address, because what people need to remember is that social media is rented land. Your LinkedIn profile can be deleted tomorrow without any reason, and you can never get it back, just like Facebook, just like Instagram, just like TikTok, just like YouTube. You do not own the rights to any of it. So that's why Nancy and I, my wife that is, we are big proponents. There's a lot of Nancys. My mother-in-law is Nancy. My mom is Nancy. My wife is Nancy. And you're Nancy. So a lot of Nancys.
Yeah.
So the idea is to do whatever you can to continue to build that email list outside of social media. So
let me ask you a question. So you have these clickable things in your LinkedIn profile and everywhere. Where does it take them so that they can subscribe?
So just as an example, if you have creator mode turned on LinkedIn, which everybody should, that gives you the ability to stream LinkedIn Live, that gives you the ability to create a LinkedIn newsletter, an audio event. If you go in to edit your bio, where you put your name, your last name, your headline, if you go to the bottom, you can add a clickable link. So that clickable link could be visit my website here, or download my free guide here, or book a call with me here. So all of those things, your website, any download that you have, or a lead magnet, your calendar, should all be linked back to your email service provider, which some people use Constant Contact, they use MailChimp, they use Kajabi, Kartra, Go High Level, any of those things. So everything that you should be doing should be drawing people back to doing an exchange of something, of free value for their email address. So you can add those in the featured content section. You can add those in the headline section. If you do have LinkedIn Premium, you can put a book an appointment button where people can click on it right within the LinkedIn feed. That takes them right to the calendar where they can book a time with you, which is also connected to your email service provider. So it really acts as an amazing, not just lead generation tool, but email list growth tool, which is paramount above everything else.
Wow. That's, it's such rich information, Scott. So many people, I would think most people don't know this that are using LinkedIn. They'll put their profile out there, and it's not really written from the viewer's point of view. It's just kind of this all about me thing, but it's not even very detailed. But the idea of embedding keywords in there is something new to me. So I appreciate that. So how do you work with clients? Let's say somebody comes to you and said, look, I've been on LinkedIn forever and nothing's happening. How would you step them through things?
Yeah, so there's again, going into the first layer, obviously being their profile, so making sure their profile is optimized the right way. I've been lucky enough to partner with a technology company to develop a software that basically helps me compliantly analyze people's LinkedIn's profiles.
Mm.
So it's not like any software or anything. It just basically shows me where the holes and gaps are, and how they should be properly filled out. And I've learned over the years how to do so. So I can take a look at someone's profile and I can clearly see where there's missing things, whether their about section is not written in first person, which it should be, if there's no call to action, if they're not listing at least 10 skills in their about section, things like that I've learned over the years help to optimize it. So once someone has their profile optimized, we then think about the growth of their network. So I always tell people that there's 2 connections that you should have. Ideal client connections, those are people that you serve best with what they're looking to achieve. And business allies or power partners. These are people that you can collaborate with. These are people that you can have joint ventures with. These are people that you can create referral partnerships from, general networking. And sometimes those connections become more of a powerful leverage aspect than the actual ideal client, because the more business allies that you have out there, people that know about what you do, who you serve, and how you serve them, the more referrals you're going to get sent your way. Nancy and I get referrals every single week from LinkedIn because of all the relationships that we've built, but more so because of the results that we've gotten.
I was going to say, that's what goes back to, you have to have something of value that works.
So my wife made this for me. It's a little certificate that she made when I received my 500th written recommendation on my LinkedIn profile.
That's cool. Yeah.
So that's why social proof is everything. So again, you can have as many connections as you want, but if there's no social proof to the actual results that you're getting for people, you're not going to get business. So when people go to my LinkedIn profile and they see over 500 written recommendations of people that I've served over the years, they can say, okay, this guy obviously knows what he's doing because all these people say so. So when you're building your network, you don't want to spray and pray. And I think that's a methodology that was taught back in the day, where you just click connect as many times as you can, try to get as many connections as you can. If those connections that you are sending requests to do not fit into one of those 2 connection buckets, potential ideal client from a profession or industry standpoint, or business ally power partner, don't send the connection, don't accept the connection. Because if they're the wrong connection, they're not going to respond to any message that you send, and they're surely not going to resonate with any of the content that you're actually posting. So that brings me to the 3rd layer, which is your messaging. So what I'll say is, this is where the wheels typically fall off of the bus, because 2 things happen here. Number 1, people are falling for the trap of hiring companies that say that they are compliantly connecting and messaging for you on your behalf. The only problem with that is that when all of us opened up our LinkedIn accounts, and this is no fault to anyone, it's just how these marketing companies get you. There's a user agreement and terms and conditions little box that we check off the day that we opened up our LinkedIn account, where we're accepting the conditions and the terms and the policies to the user agreement. One of those is that you compliantly agree that you will not use any automated software that connects and messages for you. So that's the majority reason why a lot of people are getting their accounts deleted right now, is because they're using outside marketing companies that are connecting and messaging for them. Because if anyone that's listening or watching this has ever gotten one of those 18 paragraph long drunkalog verbal vomit messages from people, it's most likely some sort of automation software that the person should not be using. And eventually LinkedIn will catch up to them and will delete them from the platform. There's actually no way to get your account back at that point. Once you've violated the user agreement, it's a once you're out.
Wow.
Yep. They delete your email. So even if you try to start a new account, you can't. So the big picture is really making sure that you're messaging people organically. So you don't want to sell and pitch. You want to connect, nurture, and build that relationship. So after someone becomes a connection of yours, you send them just a very warm opening message. Hey, Nancy, it's so great to finally be connected to you. I noticed that we had a similar background in XYZ industry or XYZ profession. Would love to hear how things are going with you, share more about what I'm working on and how we can support one another here on LinkedIn. anytime this week or next week for a call or a Zoom.
Mm.
So it's very relaxed, it's very open, it's very warm, and it's very non-committal. You're asking for a time to connect with them. If they're open to it, they're going to say, yes, I'd like to talk. If they're not going to respond. Either way, it's fine with me. So for me personally now, I focus more on quality over quantity. So back in the day, booking all those calls, it was great, but it was a lot of non-qualified people. I've
Right.
kind of honed in a little bit more where I teach people now to book 3 to 5 qualified calls per week,
Mhm.
which amounts to 12 to 20 per month, which is still more than most people are getting on LinkedIn, but they're more qualified, so they're getting better results at the end. Now, the fourth and final layer is you have your profile, you have your network building, you have your messages going out where you're booking calls. Now you have your content. So this is where also people struggle a lot because they're not sure what to post, what kind of things to post, or what do they even say. So I kind of break this down into what I call the bookend method, where you have a post going out on Monday, you have a post going out on Friday, which are your bookends, and then in the middle, which is your books, you have a post going out in the middle of the week on Wednesday. Now, there are a slew of posts that you can do: image posts, text posts, polls, articles, newsletters, documents, pre-recorded video, live video, audio events. There's a ton.
Mhm.
That's where it gets overwhelming. So what I tell people is when they're kind of in phase one of putting themselves out there on LinkedIn, focus on just 3 of them: video content, market research polls, and long form written content with an image attached. So the way that I break this down is Monday should be your video post. Now, this doesn't have to be on Zoom. You can simply record a video right on your phone. So
Mhm.
it could be a 30 to 60-second how-to or tip video, just a simple, hey, coming on here today, just want to give my audience and those people that are in my network that are in XYZ industry or profession this simple tip on how to do X, Y, and Z, and here's how you do it. You give your little tip, you sign off, and you say, I'll talk to you next week. And it could be as simple as that, 60 to 90 seconds. Once it's recorded, you open up the LinkedIn app, you hit create a post, you upload your video, you write a little description of what the video is about, you hit post, and it's done. Now, video is probably the scariest thing to do for people because they're putting themselves out there, but the more vulnerable you make yourself, the more connectable you actually become.
Mhm.
So instead of just hiding behind the posts and hiding behind all this stuff, put yourself out there. We're all perfectly imperfect, but you're looking to bridge that gap between someone that doesn't know you to the person who now does. And when
Yeah.
you're on video, they can see you, they can feel you, they can hear you, and it's one of the best ways to bridge that gap. Now, the middle post, which is Wednesday, is one of my favorite features, which is the poll feature. So just like Facebook or Instagram, you can create a poll question on LinkedIn. Now, what I always suggest people to do is ask very simple yes or no questions
Mhm.
that cater to the specific demographic of profession or industry that you would like to work with, but really speaking to a pain point. So this is what you want to do. You want to gather some market research. So ask relevant questions that are going to provide relevant market research that can further your content. So a question example could be this. I actually asked this the other day, and I wrote, yes or no, did you know that you can customize your LinkedIn URL on your profile? Yes, no, other comment below. And the majority of the people did not know how to do that. So now that I got my data research and I have my market research, on Friday, I can do a long form post explaining in fine detail step
How to do
by
that,
step
right?
how to do that. So
That's
everything kind of just congeals
so
together
everything
very
really
perfectly.
flows together then.
So now you're not having to think about what do I need to post about? What do I need to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about?
Mhm.
One is feeding right into the other. So you need to position yourself as a person of value and a value added resource. And you need to give people a reason to come back for more. So when you're giving free advice, you're giving free education and information that is actually moving the needle for them and their business without asking for anything back in return. you will have raving fans, and you will have people coming back over and over again to support you, your content, and your business.
So, Scott, how important is consistency in terms of posting?
Well, I don't think just for posting. I think consistency in
For
general,
all of the everything that you're talking about, the connections.
consistency in life, consistency in business. Without consistency, you actually have nothing, because we call that the stop-start methodology. So, you're just spinning your tires in the mud and you're actually not moving anywhere. It's called the treadmill experiment, where, it feels like you're running fast, but you're in the same exact place. So get off of the treadmill and start moving forward. So when you create a consistent routine for yourself, just like anyone that's looking to build a healthy body, right? You don't eat healthy just one day and then expect a miracle to happen overnight. It's the consistency factor of what you're putting into your body. Working out. You don't go to the gym one day and then walk out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It takes years and years of dedication and consistency to do that. The same thing goes for using LinkedIn or building a business. You have to be consistent each and every day. It's the marathon perspective, not the sprinting methodology. It's just inch by inch, step by step, taking it one day at a time, eventually getting to those goals that you want to achieve. But I do give forewarning. Just know that the peak of one mountain is the valley of the next. So you're going to continue to climb the ladder, but there's always a place to go higher. And that's what I want for every single person.
That's great. So tell us the name of your book again.
It's called The Feel Good Business Model. So it's on Amazon. It's Kindle paperback and hardcover. What's that?
I said excellent, because I mean, clearly you've told us a lot of things that we can do, but what people it's like breathing to you, right? But for everybody else who wants to build their LinkedIn profile, who wants to get more referrals, more connections, etc., we'll want to read something. We can't just remember and then connect with you as well to get that more intense help. So if I were to ask you how you're using your influence to impact the world, how would you kind of sum that up?
I mean, for me, Nancy and I want to be examples of what's possible and to give people hope, because for me, I believe there's a greater purpose for every single person, but we were not put on this earth to work every hour of our lives, every day of our lives. It's important to love what you do, but it's also important to be able to create a life and a business that affords you the flexibility to spend all of those important times and those memories with your loved ones, with your friends, creating experiences. You don't want to wait until it's too late to really experience life. You want to experience it right now. And Nancy and I always tell people, so much can happen in 12 short months. That's why when people come into one of our programs, it's a 12-month program, a lot can shift. We had a woman that literally went from $50,000 a year in her business to $300,000 a year 12 months later.
That's amazing.
That's life-changing. And
that's amazing.
We want to show people that, we're leading by example. We're paving the way. We're showing other people how to do it, because our success is not for us. It's for us to share with other people, because the success of others really is the example that we want to leave for other people, that it's possible. If we can do it, so can you.
Yeah. So you said something about offering people hope. I've long thought that all of us are doing the same thing in our businesses, just within our own zone of genius. And I think that everybody that's in business is doing two things. They're offering people hope and help. And when you do that, with what I do, to help people build their legacies and write really high impact nonfiction books, what you do by helping people create more avenues for increasing their business and their wealth, it changes people's lives, but they need hope that they can do it. And then they also need help to do it as well.
And that's the thing, you brought up a good point. It's okay to ask for help. Nancy and I, we've been coaching with people for years. The teacher is always the student. we believe in therapy. I love therapy. I love talking to my therapist because it's always good to, get outside perspective. And that's why, coaches and consultants and, they're needed in this world because again, an army of two is twice as strong than an army of one. And you really want to be able to impact people the right way. And there's nothing ever wrong with asking for help. It takes a lot of bravery and a lot of vulnerability to step out and say, I need help with this, and that's the thing. People end up saving themselves so much time, so much stress, so much overwhelm, so much anxiety, and so much money by just taking
help.
It's not a shortcut. It's shortening the learning curve. When you can shrink that learning curve, oh my God, it is incredible the results that people can have in their life and their business.
Well, I love what you're doing, Scott, and you've given us a wealth of information, and I've certainly seen gaps in my whole LinkedIn approach from just listening to you. But so to wrap it up, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions to help the audience get to know you in a different way. Sure. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Cat or dog?
I grew up with cats my whole life, but now we have 4 dogs. So I love them both, but they're very different, cats and dogs. But yeah, we have 4 dogs.
Yeah, kind of like different. Boys and girls are really different too.
Oh my God, tremendously.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Okay. Summer or winter?
Winter.
Netflix. Excuse me, I'm tripping over my own words. Netflix or movie theater?
Oh, nothing beats a movie theater, just the surround. I mean, I love Netflix and chilling, but I also do love going to the movies.
Yeah. Okay. Casual night in or fancy night out?
I mean, both are great, but there's nothing better than just when we love our house and I love a casual night in. Yeah. Playing games and just connecting, playing music, that kind of stuff.
Window or aisle seat?
Oh, aisle. Like if I got to go to the bathroom, I do not want to crawl over people. And I also want to be one of the first ones off the plane. So I do not want, totally aisle.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning
person. Okay. So you've told us a lot of your capabilities about running a gym, being a trainer, and leading people in business. What is something you cannot do?
So my wife would agree with this. I'm a great connector, motivator, speaker, storyteller. But if a graphic or an ebook or a workbook for digital purposes needs to be created, my creative visual eye using Canva isn't as on
you need help. Yeah, you need to outsource that, right?
As my wife is much better at that. I've tried to do it and I've tried to be really proud of myself and like, look what I did. And she goes, all right, let me go back in there and fix a couple things. So I know my zones of genius. So does my wife. So the artistic side, that creative eye, not so much my strong suit.
Okay. Well, where can our audience find you? Obviously on LinkedIn, if they want to connect and learn more. Is there any other place that you would want us to direct them?
Yeah, my website, scottaaron.net. There's actually a free LinkedIn guide on there. It's called 6 Steps to Perfecting Your LinkedIn Profile. So that's like the first layer. So I always like to get people started with that. So there's a free guide there. You can also, my podcast is on there, my books. But if someone's interested in learning more about what Nancy and I do with our Feel Good business model, thetimetogrowcom would be the place to learn more about us and the company that we run together.
Sure. Oh, that sounds great. I know I'm interested in that, so I'm going to check that out. So
awesome.
Well, thanks again for your time, Scott, and to our audience for your attention. If you or someone you know wants to write a book, if they have a desire to leave a legacy, to increase their visibility, and want to use the book as a business tool, you can find my contact info in my LinkedIn profile, where there's a button to schedule a strategy session with me.
Exactly.
So you have been watching Masters of Influence with your host, Nancy Erickson. We'll see you next time.